Three, two, one. Good morning, YouTube. We are live simultaneously on TikTok and YouTube. Join me for morning coffee and another episode in this rabbit hole of Candice's story. I do have an update. I do have a couple updates today that we're going to go through together. I did receive an update on the GRAMA request that we filed for the copy of the police report at the base of the 2011 domestic violence arrest. And I also wanted to share some context to the house that she has been building with your taxpayer dollars for the last few years. Before I give you the unofficial house tour, good morning, besties. Also, if you're joining me on YouTube, check out your new badges. To those of you that are subscribed to my YouTube memberships, I hope you guys enjoy your new badges. I love them. This makes it so easy for me to identify like who's been here how long. Good morning from TikTok. If you are here from TikTok, welcome. I'm going to show you guys a video before we start. First, we're going to start with the house topic, and then we're going to go into the receipts, the GRAMA update, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are antsy to know what's going on. Okay, so in our last live, we had some questions about the house, right? Who owns it? Maybe the family owns it. Okay, so I was able to dig up some information through her YouTube channel about the house. So, hold on a second. I wanted to show you guys this video that they posted before the build. Hold on, let me get my phone. Where's my phone? My phone mirroring? iPhone mirroring. Okay. So I wanted to start this class and session today with one of the first videos that they posted about their home build. Okay. Here. Okay, we're gonna watch it together.
Oye, pues me tocó, hasta ahorita me acordé de mandarles un video, pero hoy yo no tengo el terreno todavía, pero estoy empezando a juntar piedra para la.
So, really quick, this is a YouTube video that Fidel did as he was gathering stones for the build, for their build. And the only reason why I'm showing it to you is because he mentions about the land, okay? I know it's hard to understand him, so I'll paraphrase some of it. But I do want to show it for receipt purposes.
I
know it's so bad. It's really bad quality, but it's short. Just
Llevamos un buen de piedra juntando. Entonces, pues sí, vamos a tratar de trabajar y pronto nos den la respuesta de la casa.
Right here.
El terreno que yo quiero, me gusta un terreno que quiero y por eso me he esperado un poco para la construcción de la casa, porque es un lugar que está muy bueno para más que nada por mis hijos, para niños que quieren escuela.
Okay, so if you didn't understand what he said, we're waiting to hear back from the land. The reason why I've waited to build the house or to start the build is because I wanted it to be a good location, close proximity to schools. Did you catch that? So it would appear that they were in the process, and this video was posted in February of 2021, a couple months before she applied for the PPP loans. Okay, so it looks like they were in the process of buying land in February of 2021. Just going off of what Fidel shared in this video as he's gathering stones to, to start the build. Now, what popped out to me is that he mentioned that they found a place that's close to the schools, right? If you've watched her content on her house, I have always interpreted that the house was within walking distance to the town. And feel free to chime in for those of you that watch her content a little bit closer than I do. But I had always assumed that the house was pretty close to the town. And if you listen to what he said in this video, when he's talking about we're waiting to hear back from the land, and the reason why I waited to start building is because I wanted a good area for the kids in close proximity to schools and everything. Are you with me? Are you with me? I know some of you have said that Fidel's mom gave it to them. I don't know. I'm just going off of the content shared. There's no documents as to who owns it. But in this video, he alludes that they're in the process of buying land and that they specifically had waited to get a good location close to schools. Are you with me? Yes or no? Are you with me till this part? And so I have always said, like, it's kind of crazy they're building, Lisa, thank you so much, they're building this huge mansion, this hacienda in the middle of a small town, right? Well, we've located her house on Google Maps, and I have blocked out identifying information, so don't worry, Candice. But one, there's a few reasons why I wanted to show this. Personally, I didn't find her on Google Maps. One of my followers didn't send it to me. There's been a lot of viewers that are heavily invested into this and have themselves taken it upon themselves to look for information, okay? So this is where her house is positioned in comparison to the town. Her house is the green circle, and the white lines are covering up the name of the streets, but this is where the town is, closer to the white lines. Can you see? Her house is completely way the fuck away from everything. There's nothing nearby. I know you can't see it. I'll show it to you in a second. Now, why does this matter? Hang tight, okay? Because there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong, right? So her house is all the way over here. The town is over here. There's nothing, absolutely nothing within walking sight. I'll give you guys a closer look at street level. This is street level view from 2025 image of Google Maps. And this is a little bit closer. And let me move. So two things jump out at me as we're talking about the topic of deportation, and also as she has always kind of made it seem like they are assimilating and living amongst, the local townsmen. This house is huge. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, plus 2-car garage, and I can't see the back. So this is the house that your tax dollars built the foundation for. And I'm going to go back to the location of it. How far away it is from everybody. And that they strategically chose to build far away from the town. It's not within walking distance. It's not living amongst the townspeople. It's not assimilating. It's not, I can walk next door to my mom's house. There's no schools nearby. So it contradicts the video that I just showed you where he was like, we've been waiting to get a good piece of land so that we're close to schools, etc. There's nothing nearby that house. It's off to the far, so BFE. I want you guys to tell me how you feel about the placement of this house. I do remember she said they bought the land from Fidel's family. Well, I don't know that. I can't confirm that. Now, for those of you that don't see an issue with the location, there's nothing wrong with wanting to have your own. Honestly, for me, fuck my neighbors. I don't want neighbors either. But it's a contradiction to the way she sold her story, that they're assimilating and that they're immersed in the town and that she can just walk over to her grandma's house or whoever the fuck. Some of you will see it, some of you will not. Wasn't there a video where she mentions that it was family? I don't know. I haven't found it. If you can find it and link me to it, go ahead. It's just a contradiction to what she has said about... Okay, plug this in. The context that we now know about the family. I want you to plug in carne asada and onions. I want you to plug in broken English. I want you to plug in illegal immigrants. I want you to plug in Her family never knew anybody undocumented prior to him. Plug in all those things that we now know about the history of this woman and her family, and then ask yourself why the house is placed where it is. Somebody said it's like a plantation. I mean, yeah. I love the new 4-year badge. You have a 4-year badge? Oh my goodness. Congratulations, Bessie. Thank you for being around for so long. Right. You can't build a house that big in the Pueblo. Yes, you can with the correct permits. If you buy enough land. It's only a 2-story house. The issue would be maybe how far up you can build. But with the correct permits, you can build that big of a house inside the town. You just need the enough lot and land to do so. She does, and now, right, plug in the dangerous criminals. Plug in all the history we now know. Plug in the fact that her family, when they went to visit, wouldn't sit at the table with the workers that were also eating at the same time as them. Plugging in all the history that we have. That's why that caught my attention. Not because there's anything wrong with not wanting neighbors or whatever, but it's a misrepresentation of, oh, you know, she immerses herself so deeply into the culture and they're not even going to have no neighbors, right? And it stands out. It stands out in that town. And then probably after that will come the Hacienda Gates and all of that, right? It's like the ones, have you ever been on a road trip in Mexico and you're driving out in the middle of nowhere and you see big ass haciendas like this with the big gates that say Rancho Garcia or something, right? That's where this is headed. It's giving Janelle's the land. And so plug that into when we talk about the privilege. This town, I haven't looked up the population and without telling you the town name, but it's a very small town. Let me give you some quick statistics of this town, the cost of living, all of that. There's 560. Population is 560. Am I reading this right? According to Google, her town has a population of 509 people. That's crazy. So I want you to put 2 and 2 together of the cost of living, the salaries, the wages, what a house like that does in comparison to the very humble livings amongst those 500 people. Someone said there's more employees at my company. So it's a very small town. I'm not going to say it's riddled with poverty. I don't think those are the right words, but it's a very... Nobody in that town would ever get anywhere near to the amount of resources that this one family has. It's a very humble town. It's a very limited resources type of town. It's tiny. 500 people is crazy. I hadn't looked that up. I just barely searched it up. 500 people, like, damn, what do you do with 500 people? It's like a little ghost town. Yeah, I've never been myself, but now let's do the average. And I'm not showing you the screenshots, para que no le des patatus and oh, she's doxing her. I'm just giving you some facts off of Google. The average salary, I can only imagine what the average salary is. What do people do for work there? La economía, empleo. Economía. Es un pueblo ejidatario. Es un pueblo ejidatario. Do you guys know what that is? Es un ejido. Do you know what that is? It's an indigenous town. Los pueblos ejidatarios are, how do I explain this in English? I'm actually studying agriculture law. So an ejidos is protected land that's owned by indigenous. And I hope, hold on, let me Google this so I can explain it to you. It means that the land belongs to a community, not the government. Okay, I'm using ChatGPT so I can correctly explain this to you. When you're buying property, when it's owned by un ejido, it's a different process than buying from just regular commercial real estate. It's kind of like it's kind of like a reservation. Yes. So look, I'm going to paraphrase. Un ejido es una forma de propiedad de la tierra en México, donde el terreno pertenece colectivamente a una comunidad. The land belongs to the community of that people. It doesn't belong to the government. It doesn't belong to commercial, it belongs, so it's indigenous. It's like a reservation kind of. La tierra es propiedad social, no privada. Los miembros de la comunidad llamados ejidatarios tienen derecho a usar y trabajar parcelas. Las decisiones sobre el uso de la tierra se toman de manera comunitaria. What does this mean? Yes, it's similar to reservations where that land is protected and owned by the people of that community, which are usually indigenous people, natives, right? So foreigners can't buy those. You can't, how do I explain this to you? It's not a regular plot of land. Agriculture, yes. Typically used for the good. It's not private property. It's social property. Farming land. It's native. Ejidatario means I hate that I can't accurately translate this to you. So I'm just going to read it to you in Spanish. It was part of a reform. Surgió principalmente después de la Revolución Mexicana. En resumen, un ejido es un sistema donde la tierra se comparte entre miembros de la comunidad para su aprovechamiento en vez de pertenecer a un propietario individual. Tribal land, right? So, it would be really interesting to know how they purchase. So when you guys say that, the mom owned it, probably the whole community owns it. So the fact a white lady is building a big-ass mansion in tierras de ejidatarios, although maybe she's married to one, I don't know, that just hits different. Se pasa de familia a familia. Yeah. This will be the only house of that size in that area. Nobody else has the resources to build that size of a house in a town of 500 people. I don't know, that rubs me the wrong way. That it's supposed to, and that makes sense why they were previously crops. If you look at the pictures in Google Maps, and I did prior to their build, it was just crops. So they removed the crops to build their house. And mind you, this is supposed to be community land. My personal opinion, she has no business colonizing that land. That's all I'm going to say. My personal opinion is they'd have no business building a fucking mansion. A mansion in a town that tiny. And this is probably why she's never shared the proximity of her house to the town. She's never shared. The land can be sold. You can buy tierras ejidatarias. Yes, you can. I've seen it happen here in Vallarta. It's a different process, but yes, you can buy it. You can buy it. But once you buy it, this land is no longer for the use of the community. It's no longer crops. And that's how land begins to get not lost, but do you see where this is going? These are supposed to be, yes, and buying those is a headache, absolutely, and they're subject to different laws. I'm actually studying right now Derecho Agrario, which is the laws that govern these pieces of land. So it is a headache to buy them. It's a completely different process, and they're subject to their own laws. There's a special law book specifically for ejidos y ejidatarios. They're protected lands. They're indigenous lands, and what you're seeing here is a perfect example of how those lands eventually get taken from the community and they end up private property. And to add insult to injury, a foreigner is building it. Yes, she's married to him, but that's a foreigner. Those are foreigner resources. That's foreigner money. And that's exactly how land is colonized. No se heredaron because he specifically told us that they were waiting to... He talks about the process of buying, how they were waiting, and they had specifically selected a piece of land close to schools. So by the way that video was worded, it's giving they bought it. Fidel didn't grow up there. He grew up in the United States. And I'm not saying they don't have a right to it, but this is exactly how land is lost to foreigners. This is exactly how land is colonized. I had no idea her town belonged to Tierras Ejidatarias. I didn't know it was that small. In the aerial view that you can see here, you can't really, but it's a tiny, tiny town. And this right here is the mansion that they're building away from the rest of the town. Hits a little different, no? I always worried if she isn't worried about being tired of building a big house. Well, I mean, puts herself on the map, literally. Hey, where's my coffee? Hold on, please. Where's my macchiato? Hey, guys. Yeah. Did my coffee get here? No? Oh, I guess I didn't order it. Oops. Will you keep an eye out for it? Yeah. Thank you. Look, I got lost in the sauce. I guess I didn't order it. She's just worried about Annie. The rest is white noise for her. And look, the other part of why I wanted to show this, okay, is how many content creators has she told and invited to her house and been like, oh, but please, for the safety of my family, please don't give it out to Annie. What have I been saying all along? If I wanted to find you, I could find you. And I didn't find her. This needs to be a good lesson for you in internet safety, Candelaria, that this is how easy you've made it for people to find you and where you live and where you're building, including your rental home, based off of your blogs. Mexico. So if y'all ever collab with her again, Just remind her, hey, no need for the disclosure. She's already knows where you live. What about all the American citizens, that are buying property in Puerto Vallarta? They are part of the problem. I hate it. The majority of beachfront Vallarta is owned by foreigners. I was asked in a comment if she was worried about being targeted for building a house that big. She said that there are other bigger houses in the area. What? Could you screenshot that? Because no, there's not. No, there's not. Do you want me to zoom in? I could take you through a digital tour of her town, which I'm not gonna do. I won't do because I don't want to dox the girl. But look at her house. Does it look like there's a bigger house anywhere near hers? Take the drone. Does it look like she's got the biggest house in the fucking zip code? Not just the town. She's got the biggest house on the zip code in that little area. Look. No, I've zoomed into her town and I've gone through the streets. There are no houses. The houses in the town are as big as her garage. Yeah. You see that little garage right there? That's the average size of the homes in that town. One garage, by the way, not two. One garage. She lied to you when she said there's bigger houses, because no, ma'am. Can we see? What do you want to see? The house? Or here, I'll show TikTok real quick. Okay. There's a Google image in 2025. This was a year ago, by the way. And the shit looks the same. Anyway. That's her house. That's the town of 500 people. So, yeah. Un cuarto para cada gente que la... If she told you guys that her house is not the biggest one, she is lying to you. And she probably didn't want to tell you that because it would make her uncomfortable. Right? It would be a perfect, like, it would give a lot to say. She knew she would get some hate if she told people she's building the biggest house outside of the town. Not even inside the house. It's not inside the house. It's outside the set. It's very far away. It's huge in comparison to the area that she lives in. So when we talk about gentrification, what is gentrification? What is gentrification? Google definition of gentrification. What is it? Wealth moving into poor areas. Wealth moving into poor areas. Right here. 500 people with houses the size of her garage. Displacing indigenous lands. These used to be crops. These used to be crops for the town. Now it's a big ass mansion for one family. She's gentrifying, period. Okay? And it's important to acknowledge that. Okay? I used to fight that narrative too. I don't want to be a gentrifier. I don't want to be a gentrifier. I hate it when people tell me that. It hurt me when people would tell me that because I felt like it grouped me in with the foreigners. But maybe we are too. Maybe I am too. Maybe people with means outside of the regular means were part of the problem. But what is my choice? So I'm in a very different situation than Candice. Very different. Very different. I'm not going to say that Mexicans can't gentrify. We can. And we do. And if we don't acknowledge that, we're part of the problem. It took me a long time to come to terms with that. You guys saw me fighting for my life when people will point at me gentrification, but it's a difficult situation to be in because I didn't come here just because it's cheaper. I didn't come here because it's easier or this or that. I didn't have a fucking choice. Many of you tell me if you hadn't been deported, you would still be in the U.S. Absolutely, I would still be there, and I wouldn't be unbalancing the scales. But this isn't a move by choice. This isn't a move because I want to exploit the cost of living. This isn't a move because this tiny town makes it easier. I live in an area where other people have similar, if not more than what I have. Even when I remodeled my other home, Well, maybe that can be gentrifying too. But I didn't displace anybody in the process. I built for my family, to house my family. So you see what I'm saying? Like, we could compare all day long. If we want to compare Andy versus Candice, that's going to have to be a whole other video. But when we're talking about this specific story that has never been pointed at, has never been questioned, has been glorified, although they're engaging in the same behavior that we tear down deported Mexicans for. Take this picture, this story, and drop it into a Mexican FYP and tell me how they feel about it. Tell me how, go ask them how they feel about this white foreigner building this fucking mansion in Tierras Ejidatarias. Go ask them how they feel about the house being built on the outskirts of the town instead of inside the town with the rest of the townspeople. Yes. Hizo su casa sobre parcelas de siembra. These were crops. They cleared out the crops and they built their house. Let me show you what it looked like before they built their house. There's multiple Google images available, and one of them shows that they were crops. And in fact, I think she's shown you guys that before this, they used to harvest crops there, right? And what did those crops serve for? The town. Those crops fed the people. Okay, I'm going to airdrop some pictures really quick of what it was before. Hang tight. Yeah, you know what? I would love to know how the Rancho people feel about this too. Maybe they don't feel any type of way because they haven't looked at it in the bigger picture. But this is from 2023. And if you go watch some of the videos in the very early stages, you can literally see the crops that were right around where they put down the property line. This was in 2013. So it went from this to this, and then to this. Does it look like that land is being farmed anymore? No, but that piece of land, and maybe it still could, but that piece of land, this right here where Candice's house is, used to be crops. Right there. Can we show Candice's house and compare it to a plantation? It very much, size-wise, it's set up the same. You need to go on YouTube. And that's where I have it on my screen. I imagine in a town of 500 people, what she pays those workers. We don't know who the land belongs to. I can only confirm that is Tierra Ejidataria. The whole town is un Pueblo Ejidatario. So all the land inside that town son tierras ejidatarias. Hey, where's my cheese box today, besties? To my haters? Haters, if you're going to come in, you got to come in with some cheese books. Darlene Aguayo, thank you so much for joining our YouTube memberships. I hope you enjoy your badge and all the live replays that you'll have access to. Mucha gente ni siquiera sabe lo que son tierras ejidatarias. Sí, lamentablemente. Mix, thank you so much for my cheese books. So the issue that I have in summary is the misrepresentation that what she's doing is pouring back into her community. What she's doing is helping her community. No, it's not. What she's doing is solely benefiting her family. We hadn't even put together where this house was built, the proximity, that the land was originally cropland. Okay, so that narrative that she's been able to have her audience build for her, that she's doing so much for this tiny little town, she's exploiting them, colonizing their lands. I'm so sorry. Like, I know that's a word that people don't like to use, especially in present day, especially when for your favorite content creators, but she's colonizing that land. And I say she because you think Fidel would be able to build that house without her? When you guys say, well, that's Fidel's dance, you think Fidel would be able to build that mansion without her resources? This is 100% her build. Okay, so he bought the land. He put the land. That house is being built with American taxpayer dollars, American resources, American privileges, and so many other things. That house is not being built by un ejidatario. That house is not being built by a Mexican national. That house is being built by an American citizen. Period. And how is it being built? Not only with your tax dollars, but by exploiting the little tiny town of 500 people all around them. That right there. She's paying them peanuts while taking their land. Why have I been talking so much about white privilege? This is a literal picture of it. In my husband's rancho, the biggest, nicest houses are the people that are living in the U.S., right? Her content is for an American audience. Why don't you guys never ask her, how come you don't do your content in Spanish? Yeah, she does her little video of her dinner checks. Okay, ask her why she doesn't create this content, her story in Spanish, if she speaks Spanish so well like you guys say she does. Because this story would land differently on a Spanish-speaking audience, on Mexican viewers. This story is only glamorized to Americans, Mexican Americans. But drop that into a local FYP, and that's why I don't do Spanish in content either. I know they're gonna rip me to shreds when I tell them I'm una ratera and this and that, and then they're gonna chop up my Spanish, right? So the reason why her content is predominantly in English is because it sells to an American audience, and it's glamorized, or Mexican Americans in the U.S., but not Mexicans in Mexico. Drop that shit into Mexican FYE and tell me how they respond to her. Drop that shit over there. Tell me how they respond to her. And tell me how they feel about how much she does for her community. The only people saying how much she does for her community are people inside the U.S. Have you seen any local talking about how much she does for their community? Nobody glazes her up except for U.S. viewers. What's going on in the chat here? Here, guys. There you go. You won't see Mama Bear anymore. Done deal. And that's the way the cookie crumbles. White people self-serving. Yes. Yep. I have further digging to do on this house build. This is just a little bit that I was able to compile last night. It's literally indigenous cropland that she built her house on. Yeah, I didn't learn that until today. That just leaves I already had a sour taste in my mouth, but the placement, the fact that it used to be this, before it turned into this. Columbus all over again, but with technology. So again, when you guys talk about how much she does for her town, she does so much for her community. This is what it was before her build. Cropland. That's a picture from 2025. You see the difference? When you guys talk about the little donations to makes to the animal shelters and the fucking kindergarten, but she donates all those little peanuts while she's taking all of this from the community. So she puts a little curtain over it with those donations, with those vlogs, but behind the scenes, she turned this for the community into this for her family. So does she actually do so much for her? Is she actually helping her community? And mind you, that was built with American taxpayer dollars, at least the foundation of it. So when I constantly hear how much she does, everything has a return for her, and the return is much bigger for her than it is for the townspeople. Have you considered doing reels in Spanish? No, this series, I've kept it more for YouTube at this point. I'm starting to transition back to my regular content on TikTok. The people that want to watch this know that this is going on. They can come over here. There's been some tea pages picking it up here and there. But how bad is the crime? In a small town like that, it's usually pretty controlled. Yeah. I need a receipt from Candice showing an 11K donation to her Pueblo. What kind of donations is she, And again, donating school supplies at the same time building your house on croplands just doesn't seem like a fair trade. Donating money to the animal shelter, but in exchange building a big ass home on their croplands just doesn't seem like an even exchange. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it just doesn't. Is she giving to us, or is she taking from us? She's taking and taking and taking and taking, and she's covering it up with the little peanuts that she leaves along the way for the townspeople. Yes, I think it's very different to go to Mexico and build a house in an ejido if you haven't been or know the people, compared to if you've always been a part of the town. Yes, very, very different. Imagine what that feels like, living in a reservation. I'm only saying reservation because I think it's comparable, okay? Imagine living in a reservation and some white lady moves into your reservation and starts building the biggest house in the reservation. You see what I'm saying? And even if Fidel was part of it, but he left for a long time. Come in, buddy. Right? He left from the time he was 17 until he got deported in 2012. Thank you, Mommy. So, is he really a part of the town when he left for so long and he's only back because he has to be? And mind you, local people feel a type of way about repatriated Mexicans that come back because they have to. Okay? A lot of them are resentful when people like Fidel leave. They leave these tiny towns and then they're forced to come back. And they're only back because they have to be. Okay, so they're not considered one of them. I can tell you that from personal experience, from stories I've seen all across the board. So how do you think people on a reservation feel when one of their members leaves, comes back decades later with a white wife, and builds a big ass mansion in the middle of the reservation, bigger than anybody else's? So when they try to sell this story like everybody loves them, they do so much for the town. Are you serious? Are you serious? Go ask those townspeople how much she does for their town, aside donations to the kindergarten her son attends and the animal shelter, allegedly, that we've never seen a receipt for. And to add insult to injury, okay, so you're part of this reservation, the member leaves, comes back decades later with his white wife, and she starts building. On top of that, she's recording all of you everywhere she goes and posting it to her YouTube channel, making money off of it. And maybe they don't know that she makes money off it, but imagine that situation. They're building this big ass house, and on top of it, everywhere she goes, that white lady's got her phone out. And a friend does, and a CN does, and all that shit. How do you feel as a local townsman? Are we still buying the story that they're so beloved and they do so much? Brenda J, thank you so much. Welcome to our YouTube memberships. Thank you for subscribing. At all the town activities in that tiny little town, humble, private little town, end up all over this YouTube channel. And with that money, that's how they're building this big ass hacienda, the biggest one in the town. Are you still buying this story that she's so beloved? She's beloved in the United States. She's beloved in a U.S. audience, U.S.-based audience. Pero aquí en Mexico, pregunten bien. And if you look at the big picture, she's exploiting them. It's all an act. It's all a facade. Lisa, thank you so much for the gifts. Oh, happy Friday. Why did I miss it was Friday today? Yolanda, welcome so much to my YouTube memberships. Oh, this makes me so excited to see more of you rolling over here. I hope you guys enjoy the badges. I love the badges because I can tell now easily who's new, who's been here for a while. The more you dig, the more you find. Yeah. And I'm going to share a little spoiler alert. Candice is aware that we're digging, and she is working overtime to suppress some of this information. I'm going to give you an update on the GRAMA request that I filed for that police report. She sent in an objection. So last week, almost 10 days ago, we filed a GRAMA request for a copy of her police report during the domestic violence incident in 2011. We got an email, my team and I, because we are a team at this point, that they received an objection to the release of the records. So they need an additional 5 days to work on a request and make a decision if they will be releasing them partially, redacted, or not at all. Now, let me now explain how GRAMA requests work. Okay. I want you guys to think of Taylor Frankie Paul right now. Okay. Anytime a incident involves domestic violence, there are laws set up to protect the victim, right? The privacy of the victim. A GRAMA request the GRAMA request that was sent in was requesting records on the aggressor. And really, we're just trying to find out what happened. Because these are now public figures that are monetizing at the base of this incident. Okay, his domestic violence charge in 2012 is what got him deported. He already had a felony DUI that did not land him in deportation proceedings. That DUI landed him in deportation proceedings, and that's what kickstarted everything. So, because of that, it is a public interest for the public to know what actually happened, because they are monetizing off of events that are tied to law enforcement. And that is why I'm pretty confident that the GRAMA request will be released, at least partially. They're going to redact all of her information, which is very standard in cases of domestic violence. So she's working feverishly to make sure that those records are not released. And I want you to ask yourselves why. if that domestic violence incident is what she says happened in her video, why would she be working so hard to have it suppressed? I don't even know how she filed an objection, but I can only use some common sense that she reached out to the police department and sent correspondence and said, anything regarding this incident, please don't release it. That's a summary of what I'm assuming happened. So the police department will now have to make a decision and outweigh if her need for privacy outweighs the public interest. In this situation, because of the reasons behind my request, I highly doubt she will be successful. If she is, I already have my appeal ready to go. So we are now in informal litigation with La Güerita 70 over those police reports. The police department is having to weigh out whether to release them or not, and I will be pushing it as far as I need to. I'm going to appeal because I think there is a huge interest for the public to know what happened in that TV, and that outweighs her need for privacy. Why? Because she's already a public figure and she's put herself in the eye of the hurricane. If this was just another regular individual, maybe, but the fact that they are public figures, including Fidel, and again, compare it to Taylor Frankie Paul, where TMZ was just recently able to get all of their records because of the need for her privacy did not outweigh the need for public interest to know. So, yeah, I already have my appeal ready to go if it is denied. I suspect it will be released in a redacted manner. They are going to redact some information, such as the victim, the child, whatever. And that's why I also think that the virality of the Taylor Frankie Paul case, because these cases are both in Utah, is also influencing the police department to tread lightly with this GRAMA request and make sure that all procedural steps are followed, because they have received an objection to the release of those records. And there's a reason why she's trying to suppress those records, and the more she tries to suppress them, the more I need to know what's behind them. And now I'm gonna speculate on why she's trying to hide them. And we will see if I'm right when the receipts come in. But I was doing some digging into his criminal records. And mind you, Candice, the police department is not the only entity that has records of his arrest. There are other avenues to pursue if you're able to succeed in suppressing that one, okay? But when somebody is arrested for things like this, there's no way to keep it 100% private. She has succeeded this far only because nobody questioned it. Anyway, I want to show you guys something in his domestic violence case that I think is very telling. And this is the 2012 case. Remember at the beginning of this series, one of the main things that I asked is, why does she never talk about the 2012 case? Why? And that has been bugging me, okay? And I think I narrowed down why with these records. Okay, please hold for receipts on YouTube. I'm about to airdrop. I have a suspicion that Candice fed him to the wolves in 2012. I have a suspicion that she had a hand in his deportation in 2012. I have a suspicion that she weaponized his status. And those suspicions are amplified by some of these court records that I found here. Okay, Fidel was arrested during the 2011 domestic violence disturbance because he had a felony warrant for his arrest for his DUI case. I want you to pay close attention to the notes in this case, okay? On January 11th, 2012, there's a note from the court clerk in his DUI or in his DV case that says, wife phoned in stating defendant is incarcerated at Heber Wasatch County Jail, speaks Spanish and will need an interpreter, and is illiterate. Mind you, she married him in 2016. But in 2012, while he was being held on that DUI case, somebody called in, said they were his wife, and said he doesn't speak English and he's illiterate, so he'll need a translator. Okay? Could that have been Candice? Perhaps. But then, in this same case, a couple weeks before he was sentenced in his DV case, which was for domestic violence and assault with bodily injury, illiterate, pause. You notice the illiterate, okay? Why does the word illiterate jump out at me? Because of the character letters where they also use terms like broken English, illegal immigrant, carne asada and onions. Okay? So that word illiterate, I identify it with Candice. I think it was her that called in. Okay? But then, the reason why I think she had something to do with this is, in that same case, on January 23rd of 2012, shortly before he pled guilty and was sentenced, the court received victim impact and restitution statements from victim services. What does this mean? When you're a victim of domestic violence, victim services is a government entity that works with the victim to provide counseling, to help them write victim impact statements, which are used to sentence the defendants. Victim impact statements are pretty much, when I'm the victim of a crime, I tell the judge how you affected me. Okay? When I'm the victim of a crime and I want you to go to jail, I write a victim impact statements because that is going to be used in your sentencing. So she sent one in shortly before he was sentenced in 2012, along with a restitution statement, meaning he caused her financial damages. So she was working with the prosecutor's office in the DV case. She was helping sentence him. She was not a non-cooperative witness in 2012 in the DV case. Now, good for you, Candice, as every DV victim should be. Okay, but the reason why she doesn't talk about this is because she helped sink him. Go look on the receipts on YouTube. If I didn't want him deported, and mind you, she knew he was undocumented. She knew he was undocumented. She knew there was going to be an ICE hold placed on him. It's mentioned in the notes on this case as well. So when we're asking, the story that she told is that they both had something to do with it. Now go back to her YouTube video where she talked about this, and she talked about the DV. She said, it wasn't that big of a deal. It was my fault too. They chose to charge him. And she made it seem like it was a mutual fight, right? That just got blown out of proportion by authorities. If that's the case, Candice, why are you sending in victim impact statements and restitution statements prior to his sentencing in that case? Victim impact statements are against the aggressor. When you and you don't have to. You don't have to. She did this on her own free will. This means that she was working with the prosecutor and she was working with, the authorities to have him punished for this crime. So does that coincide with her version of events that, we both did things and it was my fault too, and they just took him because he's a man? This is part of why she doesn't talk about the 2012 case. And this is why she is filing an objection to the records being released. There's something in that police report. This is what I suspect is in that police report. I suspect she called the cops, or somebody did. I suspect she mentioned he had no papers. I suspect she wanted him arrested. I suspect she was the fueling force behind that arrest. I believe she was a true victim of domestic violence. I believe the charges, I'll remind you, are domestic violence in the presence of a child and assault causing bodily injury. Okay? So, that doesn't fit her narrative that she gave us, that it was not a big deal, they just charged him because of blah, 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 blah. So, this is very telling to me. when I'm trying to wonder, why is she working so hard for the police department to not release the records? What if she's already, if she's already been exposed for all this, people already know what he did, people still support them, why are you working so hard to have the records concealed from the public? I'm a victim advocate, and sometimes victims don't actually write anything against the defendant. If they hadn't written anything, why would they have filed a blank page? Not only just a victim impact statement, but a restitution statement. Her dad was a state trooper. He was highway patrol. And maybe in that same county? Let's find the dad. Let's find where the dad worked. What if they set him up? Here's my other idea. And these are just speculations. We won't know until we get the police report. And if Candice keeps fighting for that report to not be released, all we will have are speculations. It'll actually serve her better for just to let us know the facts, okay? And mind you, yes, it's never okay for a man to put their hands on a woman regardless, even if she's the aggressor, because they're stronger, faster, all that, okay? What if they got into a fight and she set him up with the dad? Mind you, I still haven't been able to narrow down when she married Ferguson. So yes, if she had family in law enforcement, there was influence. It's very possible there was an influence in her case, and his case, and the way he was treated, and the way he was locked up, all of that. So is it possible that the police report contains information of statements that she made? Because mind you, I asked for all the records, including 911 dispatch calls and transcripts. So whatever statements she made during that arrest are gonna pop up. And that's the only thing that I can think of she doesn't want to come out. The daddy started his career at the age of 17 with the U.S. Air Force and ended it with Highway Patrol. Does someone have a dad's name that we could do a quick search and see what entity he worked for? And what county did he work for is what I would be interested to know. And did the dad work for law enforcement in that same county at the same time? I know he worked Utah Highway Patrol, but in that county? So if she has family in law enforcement, he had todo que perder. He had todo que perder with his family. So my other thought is that she moved to Mexico out of guilt. Eventually she moved to Mexico out of guilt because she had something to do with the first deportation. And maybe so did the family. And that's why the second go around, she decided to come down. That would also change the narrative. Ariana, thank you so much for my chisme bucks. I'm so sorry. Let me scroll up really quick. And Pati, I'm sorry I didn't reply. Sorry, I was deep in the sauce. Pati, thank you so much for my chisme bucks. I appreciate you. Thank you for keeping us going. And Ariana also just sent in a super thanks. Thank you. Yeah, you can post his name. It should be public. And she shared his obituary, so she shared the name already. So I'm starting to come up with this idea that maybe this is what I suspect. Personal speculation, personal opinion. And this is why she never talks about the 2012 deportation. Her and her family had something to do with it. And that DV is the root of why he was deported eventually. The first and second time. And he ended up serving prison time for re-entry. Right? So I think she married him out of guilt in jail because she knew this is at the root of the DV, my family and I in 2012. And then when that didn't work, she had to move down. Se quedó como el perro de las dos tortas because Ferguson was like, I'm out. Oh, I'm sure her family's trying to keep him apart as well. What if her family is the reason he went to jail? We don't know. That's why I want the police report to know what he did. Did he actually physically hurt her? Were they just allegations? Was there proof? Was there not? Was he set up? That will come out in the police report, and there's a reason why she's trying to suppress it. Let's use some common sense. Number one, You guys have told me she looks really fucked up in her content lately. Yeah, she's stressed out about this because she's watching all of these lives and she's working behind the scenes the same way that she just filed an objection to my GRAMA request. And in my, mind you, I was honest in my GRAMA request. I said, I'm an independent reporter compiling a story on these public figures that are monetizing off of this, and it's rooted in this, and it's a public interest for the public to know what happened with this incident that is directly tied to law enforcement. She's going to have a really hard time suppressing this, even with the best of attorneys if she has any, because she's a public figure. And there is no expectation of privacy as a public figure, especially when you're using these same events to monetize. That's why I think she's going to have a really hard time suppressing the release of the records. They're going to be redacted to protect her privacy. They're going to block out her name. They're going to block out the child's name. And I'm not asking for any of those records. I just want to know what happened. Because there's a public interest in this because she's a public figure. And if that one gets denied, we'll submit another one. And she's going to have to object to every single one of them until something's got to give. When she keeps saying on her videos that she's going home to work. When she means work against Annie's content right now. She's doing overtime to suppress. And so there's two things I want to find. Her marriage records to Ferguson, I haven't been successful yet. And that police report. That police report, I think, will tie everything up. And actually, Candice, we'll move on after the police report. Or maybe even the NBA. But I feel like the police report's going to be it for me. It's going to tie everything together. What actually happened. And why she never talks about the 2012 case. We the people deserve answers. Yeah. The season was good. Does she delete negative comments? Yes, all of them. All of them. Is her marriage to Ferguson a new... No, it's a divorce. Is it me or has Carlos been quiet lately? Both of them have been real quiet lately. Someone said she's on her way to Utah right now. Look, the reason why we need answers, let me tell you, as a public. And this is independent of my drama with her, y'all. Okay. I gotta clean my glasses. We need answers because her story... Her monetization is at the root of his deportation. Yes or no? Their deportation story, right? Now, their deportation story is directly connected to these criminal acts. Do you see what I'm saying? So, when she has an expectation of privacy for those records, right now when it's not serving her public image, but... She didn't want privacy for the deportation when it was monetizing for her. Do you see the contradiction there? I need to make lunch aquí estoy. From 12 people live to almost 500. Wait, are we? Wow, there's 500 of us on YouTube? Go us! Oh, thank you. I need to do more journalism, I see. Shout out to all of you in my YouTube live right now. She has never mentioned the first deportation in 2012. Never. All of her stories start in 2016. All of them. All of her interviews with news reporters, all of her TikToks, all of her "you think you can hurt me" dance in 2016, might the U.S. government this, all of her in 2016, our war flipped upside down. Everything starts in 2016. Everything. But this story goes back to 2012. And I want to know, when she called in as Fidel's wife in 2012, because mind you, she was actually still married to Ferguson when she called in and said that this was... Wait, was he? This bitch called the county clerk pretending to be Fidel's wife, and she was still married to Ferguson, you dirty little liar. I just put... Look at the date. Who else, unless Fidel had another wife or a girlfriend, but after he was detained for that DV, January 11th, the court clerk noted, wife phoned in, stated defendant is incarcerated at Heber Wasatch County Jail, speaks Spanish, will need an interpreter, and is illiterate. Okay? This bitch was still married to Ferguson on that date. So either, there's only two scenarios, Candice. Did Fidel have another wife, or did you have another husband at the time? Right here, they were both married to somebody else. It's giving polygamy, bitch. It's giving, are we doing polygamy? Candice, were we doing polygamy back then, or what the fuck? Fidel had another wife, you had another husband? Bitch, it's messy. Evelyn, thank you so much for the cheeseman bucks. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Thank you for keeping us going. I'm going to take a swig of coffee every time y'all give me some cheeseman bucks. Yeah, they called Fidel illiterate. Okay, she called in and said, my husband's illiterate and don't speak Spanish. Get him a. And mind you, she was married because remember, we already saw the court records. She divorced Ferguson April 5th of 2012. So she was married to Fergie and calls in and says, "Man, Fidel's wife today." Because who else would it have been? That was his baby mama. According to her, they had a child in 2009. So who could possibly call the clerk and say they were Fidel's wife, except for Candice? So a whole time married to a whole another man, telling the court clerk, "I'm his wife, and he can't read or speak." To call her husband illiterate is diabolical. And let me tell you something. It's not uncommon for people from small pueblos like that to not have education. It's not uncommon. Because back then, education wasn't prioritized and young children were pulled out of school and sent to work instead. So the reason he probably can't read or write, and there's no shame in this, is because he grew up in an era where children were pulled out of school to work to support their families. And that's honestly sad. My mom was the same way, and so when we moved to the U.S., she put herself through high school, and she graduated because when she lived in Mexico, her parents didn't allow her to do so. And that's very probably likely the story of Fidel, that he was not allowed to study when he was younger, or he didn't have the opportunity or the privilege to study. And that's why as a grown adult, he doesn't know how to read or write. It's very common. Jokes aside, and it's sad because then people like him run into people like Candice that will label them as illiterate and make them less because of that. But now she's capitalizing on that because that same man that can't read or write is building her fucking mansion. The same man that they told the judge looks like an illegal immigrant. The same mechanic, right? So, cuando les conviene sí, cuando les conviene no. So she has exploited him in the same ways. And it's sad that he doesn't see it. There's moments like this que sí me da lástima Fidel. Because he's been exploited by white people, including his wife. And she probably takes advantage of all that. You think he knew she was married to somebody else when she's calling the jail trying to bat for him? You think he knows any of this? He can't even read this. He can't even get on here and read your guys' fucking comments. You think he knows what type of dirt what type of mud she's creating? She's making fucking mud cakes out of their story. You think he knows that? Probably not. Probably not. You think she knows that she was hanging out with her ex-husband's family after she got him deported the first time? And okay, maybe she didn't get him deported. Let me reword that. After she supported his first deportation. She didn't get him deported, but she did support it because, remember, she made sure to get her victim impact statements prior to his sentencing. So after she did this, she takes his baby over to the ex-husband's family for a period of however long until he goes back to the States. So yes, the same way she lies to us is the same way she probably lies to this man. That's over there busting his ass to build this mansion. You know, he's not completely innocent, pero entre los dos, él sí me da un poco de lástima because I don't think he knows what kind of shit she's into. Remember, think back to that video where he had to get on that video and tell his side of the story about his charges. Do you think he knew she lied about it? Who knows? I'm sure those decisions, those marketing decisions were made independently by her. So he keeps getting dragged into this mess because his messy ass wife, lying ass wife, is exploiting everybody, including him and his kids. Why hasn't Candice helped him learn to read and write? I want you to ask yourself that. She's been married to this man for so long. She took him to get new teeth. Why hasn't she instead invested into helping him read and write? Because I'll tell you something. As a grown adult, that has to be something that makes you feel less. Being illiterate, or however, is probably makes you feel like you're not as educated as those around you. Why do you think she hasn't helped him get back into school so that he can learn to at least read and write? Porque no le conviene. Because then she wouldn't be able to play him. Then he could get on. It's in her best interest for him to remain uneducated. It's in her best interest for him to remain clueless of what's going on. Because then he relies on her. He relies on her for all the paperwork. He relies on her for all the trámites. He relies on her for everything because he can't read and write. So but she'll take him to get new teeth. Why would she take him to get new teeth? Because it's good for their brand for him to have nicer teeth. But it's not good for the brand for him to learn how to read and write. Think about that. Think about the fucking manipulation. That she went as far as to get him new teeth because so many people would talk shit about his teeth. And that he was insecure about that, right? She'll fix his image, but she won't help educate him. Because if she was to educate him, she doesn't have as much control over him. It's the same scenario when powerful men have wives without education. It's the same scenario but backwards, okay? Powerful businessmen that have money and degrees, and they end up with women that have nothing, no education, no job, and then they rely on them, so they ain't fucking going nowhere. It's the same dynamics that you're seeing in this relationship of control, manipulation, and exploitation. What do you think would happen if they split up? Well, he's never going to leave her because he relies on her to live, to eat, he needs her for everything. So the roles have switched. She went from the abused to the abuser. And that's going to be diabolical. I have never had the pleasure of, but yeah. Stay woke, my people. Stay woke. Because you run into bitches like these and they make you think they're the sweet. She's getting her lick back and some. Yeah, it's easier to do a lot of things when they can't read it. Look, my man, he's not very tech savvy. Okay? My man needs me to book tickets, to do his check-in, all that shit. Okay? He's not tech savvy. Yes, he can read and write. Yes, he has social media. Yes, he does his thing. Okay? But there's certain things that he needs me for. Like, that man can't travel without me because he no le haya bien a la tecnología and shit, right? And that's just one little thing that I'm like, damn, like, si no lo hago yo, no sabe, right? Imagine a whole ass man that can't even get a copy of his birth certificate. Doesn't even know how to, like, it's almost like a child that's completely dependent on you. Is Abby here? Tell him, Abby. It's she has built a codependence so that he needs her. Because what's he going to do without her? And men are already children to begin with. You know, they fucking need us for everything. But to this level, honestly, I myself had never even thought about it like that. Like, why hasn't she taught him how to read and write if she took him to get new teeth? Wouldn't you, like, for somebody that has an MBA, think about this. This bitch has an MBA, married to a man that can't even read and write. What's wrong with that picture? Personally, for me, as a woman that is pursuing my law degree, I need somebody in my same education bracket. I can't imagine being married to somebody that isn't on my same level of, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's why me and Walter didn't work out, because that motherfucker's a dumbass, okay? I can't fuck a dumbass. And I'm not saying Fidel is one. But what I'm trying to say is, you gotta be on the same, somebody with an MBA married to someone that can't even read or write. The scales are fucking tipped, yo. That's a red flag. Just like people date in their tax brackets, they also date in their education brackets. Well, regular people at least. At the very least, a high school diploma. I showed you on the last video how they didn't meet through her friends. You really think they met through her friends when her friends had never encountered an undocumented person outside of SNL skits, verbatim? She did an interview with her friend on YouTube. And her friend was like, yeah, one of the first things you mentioned was that he was undocumented. And I had never personally met somebody. You guys were the first outside of news clips and SNL skits. Now these were real people. So your friends watch SNL skits about undocumented people. Oh, okay. But those are the friends that you met your husband through? Are you fucking crazy to think, like, what is wrong with you, Candice? Like, this is still on her YouTube channel. Okay? We were trying to put two and two together of how, the tacuache ended up with the bell bombs. And I'm like, something's not adding, because she was not no fucking bailes. You was not a no bailes girl. Okay? How the fuck was he friends with your friends if they didn't even speak the same language? And your friends just said they had never even encountered an undocumented person outside of Saturday Night Live skits. It's giving he was the janitor at your work. Or the mechanic that your family had hired. It's giving he was the help. Yeah. Have you seen the Drewski skit? Yes! Oh my god! Somebody said the Drewski skit looks like Candice! Stop! I see it now. I can't unsee it. He probably can't even... Yeah, you know what? The land might even be under her name. But I don't know how that works porque es una extranjera. She's a resident, but she's still not a Mexican national. So can they purchase tierras ejidatarias? I don't know. And then don't even get me started on the age difference, okay? Don't get me started on the age difference. When your wife fucks the help, maybe he was Ferguson's something. Look, here's what I think. He was Ferguson's employee. Ferguson caught him in the act or something. Ferguson knew he was undocumented y le mandó la migra. Algo así. Algo así estoy sospechando. Because remember in the fucking interview with her friend says one of the first things you mentioned is that he was undocumented. So when you make friends, one of the first things you mention is that your boyfriend at the time didn't have papers. Interesting. You think she didn't share that information loosely with everybody she knew? It was almost like I'm dating an illegal type vibes. That's the vibes that shit gave me when I listened to that interview. Like, why would you so willingly that was weird, That was weird. Like, who volunteers that information? It's almost like, ooh, I'm dating a game maker. My man did prison time. It's giving my man served time in prison. Yeah. I've met girls like that, right? That are like, oh yeah, my man bangs, or my man sells dope, or whatever. Like, almost like trying to, bad boy type shit, right? That's what that gives me when the friend was like, yeah, one of the first things you mentioned is that he was undocumented. And I'm just trying to think, why would you be so loosely telling your new friends that your current boyfriend, mind you, because they weren't even married, don't have papers? It's giving us Trevino vibes. You can't purchase a Ejido property. It's for indigenous people. You can't purchase it. I can tell you that because it happens here in Vallarta. There's a way that you can purchase it. I need to dig more into that. Right now I'm studying procedural law for that type of land. I can tell you that the land was originally cropland that belonged to El Ejido. She lives in un Pueblo Ejidatario and is now building a mansion on what used to be cropland. It's honestly, like, we just went over this in the first part of the video, but it's honestly a textbook case of gentrification and colonization. Like, think of the irony of that. That her mansion is being built on former croplands for the town. That's crazy. I think she said she met him through her cousin. There's a YouTube video on this. Somebody tag it. I know there's a YouTube video of how she... Look, you know what? Let's look it up right now. Let's look it up. I love me a watch party. Let's find the story time of how she met her husband. I know she has it on YouTube. Hold on. I know did how my husband proposed. We already saw that one. The wedding, how we communicate if we don't speak the same language. I know there's one on how they met. Somebody help me find it. Hang tight. Howdy videos. Oldest. I would hate to be on your bad side. Y'all keep saying that. It's making me self-conscious. Okay. My interview, the story of her husband, chat with Fidel, or how my husband proposed, how I make tamales, why did Fidel leave, our ofrenda. I swear she did a story time on how they met, no? No. Let me see. Chat. It was on TikTok? Yeah, but she posts everything to YouTube, no? Because she's got to monetize times 6. I swear she had a How I Met My Husband story time. If anybody can find it, link it to me. Unless she scrubbed it. Because if I was her, bitch, the way I would be privating all these old videos right now. At work with Fidel. How do we communicate if we don't speak the same language? You guys want to watch that one? Just for shits and giggles. Let's see how they... Hey, you think they fucking English or Spanish? I'm so out of pocket for this, but you guys know I've always made fun of this. I always make fun about, like, I can't fucking Spanish. I don't want fucking English, right? You think they fucking English or Spanish? How do you, it's just, I'm just curious. Do you pull out the chat GPT in the bedroom or not? Personally, for me, we ain't fucking if it ain't in English, okay? Actually, I take that back. I've been, me han dominado en español. I'm lying. Prior to last year, I would have told you, that's a turnoff, but I have been, I've been dominada by un mexicano, so let me shut the fuck up. All right, we're watching the How I Met...
Monster Math presents
How I Met My Husband. Hold on.
Okay, class, let's begin.
Hello from Mexico, welcome back to our YouTube channel. So today Fidel and I are going to talk to you guys about how we communicate, because my first language is English and Fidel's first language is Spanish, and while neither of us are fluent in each other's language, we have been together for 14 years now.
Can we pause there? Alright, you've been fucking this dude for 14 years. 14 years is a whole lot of time, and you still are not fluent in his language. See, the thing about me, if I'm dating somebody for that long, if I'm married to this man, like, I just feel like I would be fluent in his love language by then. No? That's not a red flag to you guys? Okay.
This video is sponsored by Rosetta Stone, and if you guys like...
Now this bitch said that we're sponsored. Now Ingles y Barrera coming through. Okay, so you be doing Rosetta Stone y aún así no? Oh, okay.
If you're watching, well, please hit that thumbs up button and don't forget to subscribe. Okay guys, so first things first, Fidel and I have been together for 14 years now. And for those of you that don't know our story, or maybe you're coming across this for the first time, we actually live in Pueblo, Mexico. And I have lived here, well, we've lived here together for almost 5 years now.
Yeah.
La verdad es 5 años en diciembre. Super fast. Yep, it's true. It went faster after we had our second child. But we moved here because Fidel was separated from the United States and we wanted to keep our family together. So that's why we live here. We have 2 beautiful boys. We have Diego, who is 11 years old, and we have Dominic, who is 2 years old. Big age difference, we know. But
she said, big age difference, we know. We know too, Candice. It's just that you've been skipping over it just like that for many years, that we didn't really pay attention to the fact that you were 18 when you met him and he was 26.
Beautiful nonetheless. So to get into it, first things first, because I know that's looking at me. How do we communicate? When we started out in the beginning,
I want you guys to focus on his body language, how uncomfortable he is in these videos. I would never do this to my man. I'm so sorry. I want you guys to zone in, like, casi me dan lástima. Él. Look at how uncomfortable he is through his body language in these videos. And she's constantly looking back for reassurance and, like, to coach him and stuff.
It was pretty difficult, I think. Es tan poco difícil por nosotros, ¿no? Por comunicar en la primera tiempo.
Sí, fue difícil, un poco. Y más que nada porque nosotros nos conocimos, pues yo sinceramente por mi amigo que me invita a un cerro, a una capilla con una iglesia. Vamos a dar una vuelta con mi novia, tiene una amiga. Vamos a dar una vuelta. Entonces, pues yo...
Okay, so he just says his friend invited him to the chapel with his girlfriend who was going to bring a friend. So they met at church?
Yo también pensando, no, pues, ¿por qué no vamos a nunca había tratado más con una americana?
Right there! He said, I never dealt with an American. I never had no American pussy. Did you see what he just said? Why did that make me laugh? I'm so sorry. He said, I never fucked with no white bitch before, but I guess. Okay, so he says, my friend invited me to go to the chapel with his girlfriend that was going to bring a friend. And I said, well, why not? I mean, I never fucked with a white girl before. Why not? And that is why she hates us. That's why you hate me, Candice. Look, I'm a lot of things. But prior to this, his type is probably Latinas. That tells you white girls are not his type.
Sí, ese día ahí un ratito platicamos y yo la verdad estaba un poco tímido porque no sabía ni cómo expresarme con ella y
we cannot do 1.5 times speeds on him. We need to slow down the speeds on him because he talks fast as it is.
Entonces, pues ya nos presentamos nuestros amigos y de ahí empezó todo. Continuamos nosotros cruzamos muy pocas palabras porque pues nos conocimos y yo me había hablado inglés y yo no entendía la verdad. Entonces mi amigo y su amiga pues cuando iba a hablar ese día nos estaban traduciendo. Pero bueno, pasó un tiempo y yo pensé que ya no iba a ser la última vez. Pero fue algo muy bonito. De ahí nos seguimos frecuentando, pero gracias a una aplicación del teléfono.
That's true.
Okay, so in summary, their first date was a blind date, but he knew it was going to be a white girl, and he's like, well, why not? I never fucked with no white girl before. And he says that the first date was beautiful, but they communicated things to an app. So probably Google Translate, whatever was around back then.
So Fidel basically recounted, when we first met and how we communicated. So we did, for those of you that don't know, we did meet through mutual friends. Fidel's friend was dating my friend, and...
Okay, Fidel's friend was dating her friend. Okay.
They introduced us. We did take a drive up to a scenic part of Salt Lake City. And we did go to dinner and so at the time I knew a little bit of Spanish. It wasn't anything awesome, or it wasn't any.
So in his version of events of the first date, he just says they met up at the chapel. Then she says, but we did go to dinner. Why did that catch my attention? She wants to make sure we know, like, but we went to dinner also. And he's like, yeah. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I don't think they went to dinner, but okay.
Anything big and grand. I wasn't very good at it. But I knew a little bit of Spanish, and Fidel understood a little bit of English, but didn't really speak much of it. So our communication in the beginning, I think, was kind of difficult, but we kind of just found a way around it. We used translation. It wasn't really an application at the time. It was more just on the internet. So we used a translator on the internet. We relied on our friends to help, and it wasn't just the friends that introduced us. It was, at the time Fidel was.
Hold on. I want to give you guys a visual of who she's talking about in 2007. I showed this picture on my last live. I want you guys to see what they look like back then, because I think it gives the story a little more sazon. It gives you a better visual of why we're questioning this so much. Hold on. Sorry, it wasn't ready. It wasn't ready. I'm trying to find the 2011 picture. Okay, hold tight. I gotta look on my phone. Some of you already know what picture I'm talking about. Some of you may not have been here last time. But I think showing this picture gives context to why we're questioning certain things, and the overall dynamics of them is kind of off. No voy a sacar las botas. Lo voy a hacer, amiga. Lo voy a hacer. Okay, I want you to... It's like when you're reading a story, okay? I want you to have... It's a picture book. It's a picture book. This is the story they're giving us, okay? This is who she says she met through her friends. And this is why he said, well, I guess I never fucked no white bitches before. I love this picture because what a beautiful interracial relationship, okay? But also, this is what makes me just wonder, how did y'all end up together? Like, where did you meet him? Okay? I want you to peep the belt buckle, las botas, el sombrero, and then her bell bottoms and her wet look hair. It's cute. I'm not being a hater, but it's just like, oh, okay. So, where did you guys have mutual friends? You see what I'm saying? Like, anyway, let me let them finish telling the story.
Living with, I think a couple of his friends and a cousin and maybe his brother. I mean, they were all living together and working together.
It's giving chingo bling.
It's true. It's true.
Fue algo muy bonito nuestra forma de enamorarnos, porque pues también yo un poco tímido, y pues siempre he sido tímido, más que nada.
It's true. It was very, very shy. And honestly, we...
I call cap, Fidel. This picture's not giving shy. It's giving, yeah, okay.
Our relationship have found that...
Tu dirección de residencia.
The ads, Candelaria.
Te están pagando.
They be killing us.
Por el mismo trabajo.
Our communication isn't just using words. We communicate a lot with our hands and our emotions and our faces and different things like that. It really isn't just...
Candice, I want to know what emotion you use, what facial you use when you got to tell me you fucked up and you've been lying all these years. Which one?
Speaking words.
Look at his face.
There's so much more that goes into it with our communication. And I think one of the things that...
So is that it's giving green card eyes. It's giving el amor de mi visa. I'm sorry. If el amor de mi visa was a person, it would be this. If el amor de mi visa was a person, it would be this. Okay, poster children.
Our relationship has taught both of us is that we have to have a lot of patience, and we really have had to work hard to make it work, right? Pero necesita mucho paciencia. Paciencia. Paciencia.
Mind you, paciencia, after 14 years of being married to this man, 14 years of using apps and ChatGPT and Google, and still it's paciencia? You see what I'm saying? I'm not hating that she doesn't speak it well. I'm hating at the double standard, and I'm hating at the fact that she misrepresents how much she actually immerses herself into the culture. That's what I'm pointing out. I'm pointing out that you've been with this man for damn near 2 decades, and we're because it's a misrepresentation of the real story. You see what I'm saying? Let's continue.
We have to be very, very patient with each other because we can't just rely on our words.
She's giving illiterate in Espanol very much.
And that brings me to the Rosetta Stone part. So I like I said in the beginning, Rosetta Stone is sponsoring this video, and so we did want to talk to you a little bit about that.
Okay, so we're not gonna stick around for the promo, the Rosetta Stone. Love that for you, Candice. Not the Rosetta Stone. What else are we gonna watch today? I love these. Look, I do enjoy these watch parties. There was an interview she did with her sister, you guys, that I found the other day that I wanted to show you. because there was a part where they asked the sister how she felt about immigration, and she totally just skipped the question. Okay, I want to show you what the sister, the author of Carne Asada and Onions, I want to show you that interview.
Say it all the time. So growing up, we had one of those rotary bones that hung on the wall, and this thing was made out of like steel and wood.
Yeah, so my nephew's name is Xander. So moving on. Sorry, Nicole.
Okay.
Fine.
It's okay.
So this here, if you guys have been following this rabbit hole, this here next to Candice is the author of Carne Asada and Onions. It's the author of Broken English. It's the author of I Know He Looks Like Another Illegal Immigrant. This is who wrote that letter. And there's a part here where she takes some questions about immigration and how does her sister feel about immigration. And I want to just fast forward to that part. And then she cries about not being able to see Fidel, which I thought was cringy and weird.
The way that teams brainstorm is broken. They're working on a whiteboard that's disconnected from the rest of their work, and it's killing team creativity. But for the first time, there's a platform that fixes it by combining everything you need. Whiteboards, chat, and projects in one place.
Oh, and that's been really hard. See,
I know, we were already crying at the beginning of the interview, guys, so get ready. You've never been at a funeral before. I cry a lot.
fine. His name's in every time he walks.
It was nice to be quarantined.
I think it was huge for me because you had already had one, Diego, years ago. So you kind of remembered some of it. So I could constantly be like, oh, I heard this at this appointment or this at this appointment, and so you were able to be that sounding board for me with all my freakouts and really kept me calm.
And we were quarantined together.
I really don't want to watch the entire interview. I just want to get to the part where they talk about immigration. Hold on.
We already are. So. All right, so let's check another question. All right, Ava Garcia says, hello, I love your story of love and family. In the beginning of your relationship with Fidel, was your family upset or cautious about you being with him because of him not having his papers? What's your thoughts on that?
You know my memory, but I don't know if maybe when I was younger I did, because where we grew up, I don't know if I understood fully what that meant, like not having your papers and
Right there. Key point. She talks about, well, where we grew up, I don't know if I understood what it meant to not have papers. Okay. Candice and her family grew up in a very distant part of the immigrant community in Utah, right? So typical white privileged people that immigration doesn't affect them, so they have no fucking clue what's going on with it.
What all of that like encompassed, but I never remember that like being an issue because I guess we always kind of just rely on you and your sound judgment of experiences. Like you weren't really worried, so like I feel like you let me know if I was supposed to be worried, but I don't remember that ever, at least from my perspective, being a concern for me.
Right.
It also could have been like a lack of knowledge. I don't know, but I don't see how that. For me personally, like a piece of paper that allows you to legally be in the country is a piece of paper. So I know that can be a touchy subject, but I don't think. I guess what I'm trying to say is whether or not Fidel had the piece of paper would not have changed my opinion of him and his character. So.
Are we sure, sister? Because I don't know. After reading that character letter, I just feel like it did. After reading all those character letters where they talked about, the key statements that they made, I just feel like that not having that piece of paper definitely made a difference.
That's a good answer. She's really good at this. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not. Hard question.
Also had a lot of coffee. No, but I don't remember at any point having anyone in our family. I think if anybody felt like it, as far as our extended family, but I don't think our immediate family. I don't remember having anybody tell me that I was making a mistake or anything like that. I don't feel like that was ever a topic. I think you guys met Fidel. Everybody was aware of the situation. It wasn't something that we hid from anybody. And I think that as far as my family goes, I think we were all raised not to judge somebody by outside factors and by them and their character. And so I think that.
Oh shit, we lost it. Fuck. Hold on. Sorry, I just lost the screen. Let me pull it back up. I was multitasking and I lost the screen. So, okay, hold on, sister. I want to go back to that interview. Sister, hold on, please. Oh. They never told her being with another man was a mistake. Yeah, see, I think that's cap because, mind you, she was married to somebody else during this time.
I think that went a long way for how Fidel was, accepted into our family and things like that.
Oh, let's clock this. Okay. So they just told us not having papers was not a big of a deal. We were raised not to judge, and he was accepted into our family. Why do I feel like that's cap when you were married to fucking Ferguson?
Didn't agree or didn't feel that way, but the core of us.
Oh, right here, listen.
Family, but I don't think our immediate family, I don't remember having anybody tell me that I was making a mistake or anything like that. I don't feel like that was ever a topic. I think you guys met Fidel. Everybody was aware of the situation. It wasn't something that we hid from anybody. And I think that.
Whoa, what's that? I just built a budgeting app with Base 44. Guys, Nina just built an app.
As far as my family goes, I think we were all raised not to judge somebody by outside factors and by them and their character. And so I think that went a long way for how Fidel was, accepted into our family and things like that.
Right. And like you said, there could have been an extended family that didn't agree or didn't feel that way, but the core of us, and also they didn't say anything. So
right, they kept it to themselves, which in hindsight is much appreciated.
Right there. She talks about extended family didn't feel the same way. The extended family, she said the core of us accepted him, but the extended family. Could it be the extended family that wrote the fucking character letters we're talking about here? It would make sense that the extended family wrote those letters. Why did the extended family make statements about like dangerous individuals, dangerous criminals? You see where this is going?
right.
All right, let's see. Anna Ruiz asked, has your perception changed of the Mexican culture, or has your perception of the Mexican culture changed because of Fidel and I and our marriage and our family?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like I said, growing up, we weren't really, because of where we grew up, we weren't exposed to a lot of different cultures. Where I am now, I am, but
mind you, Utah is very bicultural. So when she says because of where we grew up, they grew up in Utah, but there's Latinos, there's Polynesians, there's Blacks, there's Asians. People like this, families like this, when they say we grew up where there wasn't, it's not that there weren't other cultures, it's that they avoided them. Okay, as somebody that grew up in the state of Utah, yes, there's a lot of white people, yes, there's a lot of Mormon, but there are large communities of immigrants in Utah. Latino and Polynesian are two of the most predominantly. So when they say that we just grew up in a place where we didn't really, it's because people like them avoid the areas that do have. They stay in their white little circles, right? Their white little LDS circles of privilege and elitism. We don't go to Kearns. We don't go to West Valley. We don't go to the lake. See what I'm saying? Utah's very, very, very
I
bicultural.
think it was really eye-opening to have him around, and I saw pieces of the culture when you guys were here, and we would do things with his family or that kind of thing, or Fidel would talk about it. But I think definitely you being in Mexico now and all the videos of all the things you guys are doing, and we talk about, you know, it's this holiday or we're doing this, and how you've kind of merged your culture and our traditions as a family into your life in Mexico has really been cool to see. But definitely appreciation, and definitely just an overall awareness, I guess, for people in similar situations to Fidels, and what that means for them in the States, and how they're treated differently. And I guess just more of an awareness than I had before. And it's constantly always learning and growing, like any.
He has family in the U.S. He actually has family still in Utah. His brother lives in Utah. So, yes, he has family. And it makes me wonder why we never see any footage of both of their families coexisting. Why doesn't her family hang out with his family? You see what I'm saying? We've never seen footage of the families together, right? But yes, he has family in Utah.
Thing.
Right.
Like a culture I didn't grow up around a lot of. So yeah, I guess just an appreciation and a constant self-evaluation.
She appreciates the carne asada and onions.
Of how are my decisions and what I'm doing impacting these people, or how are things that are happening like COVID and, you know, the elections and all of these things, like how do these things impact these populations and my neighbors. So
yeah, absolutely. And you bring up a good point that I don't think I've covered a lot of, is that you and I, well, we grew up in a very, very small town in Utah, and so you're right. Culture-wise, we weren't exposed to a lot of different cultures. there wasn't a lot there.
So, where did you find out the guacha, Candice? You grew up in such a small, tiny white town. Where could you have possibly coincided with Fidel then? What would a Fidel be doing in a Smith town? 1 + 1 = 2. What would somebody like Fidel be doing in a tiny little white town like theirs? Working.
Yeah, not to talk badly about it or anything, but it's true. We weren't as children exposed to a lot of cultures, and so I think that as we grew up and we left that small town and we kind of got out into the world, then we started to learn about all of these different cultures, and we became more aware of what was going on in the world, because of the way that we grew up, we were in kind of like a bubble, you know. It's unfortunate, but we were kind of in a bubble until we were able to get out on our own, and so yeah, I agree with you. It's definitely eye-opening. So good question, Anna. Thank you for that question.
You're welcome.
Let's see. Will your family go and visit you and bring your favorite goodies?
I don't care about that one.
I have to be very careful not to climb my soapbox, but
itself, ready to start my master's.
Ooh, let's talk about.
those are rough for me.
I think they're rough for everybody, because I think for adults, I think that's your selfish period. It really is, though, thinking about it. So it's your selfish period. It's when you
In a bubble when she was married at 18. Hey, did that bubble include is that the Virgie bubble you're talking about, Candice?
those early 20s.
Yeah. But even I also think, like, since you moved, we've gotten a lot closer. Because for one, like, you're working from home, so you're always available to me, and if you're not, I just keep calling until you are. So that's been really helpful for me. And now we talk almost every day. So I actually think you moving has brought us a lot closer, because now we are forced to communicate through this mode instead of being like, oh, I'll see you in a couple weeks, or I'll see you in a couple weeks. You know, now it's like, I don't want to see her, so I'm like, all right now, we've learned 12 times. And then you ask, well, are you dead? And I'm like,
That would be the only reason that you're calling me says it like this.
She made the bubble jingle.
I'm sitting here. For me, I honestly feel like, and this is probably where I'll cry, but I feel like we were getting closer and closer because you were wrapping up school. I was wrapping up. Well, I wrapped up my undergraduate. I was getting ready to start my master's, and honestly, for me, I had Hatch, who's my best friend. For those of you that don't know, that's my best friend in Utah. And Nicole started living out of state, and so when
Hatch, can you come to the front of the class, please? The bestie Hatch. Yo, she has a lot of besties because the other lady she interviewed, she also called her bestie. And then Julie said she was her bestie too. Candelaria, how many besties did you have?
Fidel was arrested, and when he was detained by immigration, for me, I heavily relied on, I think, in particular, you and Hatch while I was going through it. I don't know if you remember, but we would talk every day when I was on my way home from work, every single day. And it was the drive between leaving work and picking up Diego, which was usually about, 30 minutes, I think, is what it was. And I would put you on my Bluetooth in my car. I'm so proud of that car. I put you on my Bluetooth in my car, and I literally, we would talk every day. And it was I remember always feeling like that portion of driving home was like the hardest thing to get through, because I knew that I could no longer focus on work, and I knew that I was having to pick Diego up, and I never knew, because we were going through so much and Diego was going through so much, I never knew what I was going to pick, what condition he was going to be in when I picked him up daycare, and Diego had a really hard time, like the rest of us. Diego had a really hard time when we were going through it, and so I remember that on the days that we didn't get to talk, which was very, very, very seldom, that it took everything that I had driving home not to completely fall apart in my car, so that Diego didn't realize that I was falling apart, and so I think for me that's where, I feel like that's where our dynamic really shifted. It was already good, and it was a good sister relationship, but I feel like that's when we really shifted, and I think I relied on you a lot for emotional support while everything was happening with Fidel's case. So that was a rough time for all of us.
Navigating that system that had no map to navigate.
Oh, her last name is Hatch? Oh, so now, okay. In the interview with the best friend, she's like, I'm so used to calling you by your last name, but I'm going to call you by your first name for security. What? Go find the first name. Okay, see, Candice, you be fucking up left and right. This woman needs a fucking one-on-one on security, like privacy measures on the internet. Yeah. Hatch is the bestie that she interviewed. The co-worker for 10 years. But in the video, in the interview with the best friend, she's like, I'm so used to calling you by your last name, but I'm going to call you by your first name so that people can't find you. Can someone go see what her first name is? We want to talk. We want to look at Hatch. Hurry before she scrubs her shit. What was the first name? Somebody go find the first name in Love Sing Your Gorilla. Can somebody do me a favor, besties? Go do some homework real quick. She's digging deep for info for her videos. She's leaving us little clues. Aaron Hatch. All right, let me look up Aaron Hatch on Aaron Hatch in Utah. I gotta go soon, y'all. Heidi Hatch. Aaron, could it be ERINAARON? Well, one of you go look while we're finishing this.
It was then when we talked about like doing something like this, and you like being able to you being able to kind of give people the tools that you had or that you didn't have, that you had to build and had to do numerous phone calls to track down like where he was or how to get this information to this person, and it was just so many dead ends and so many frustrated endless calls, and I remember how broken it left you. Like, if you can't figure this out and you're from here and you have a master's degree and you have all of these resources, you have family, you have all these people to help you, and you can't figure out the system, how does anybody else figure out the system, Yeah. And so that's great to hear you got the idea to do all of this, and where you started that, and yeah, now you got me like down a rabbit hole of those memories, but yeah, it was a rough time.
It was good because I think, so part of what, I found out and we've discussed is the overwhelming amount of families that are in this situation, that are not in this exact situation, obviously, but in a similar situation. And I think it's good for them to hear, especially your take on it, because you were close to the situation, but you weren't living in it. Well, you kind of were living in it with me. But you were close enough to the situation, but you were still kind of on the outside. And so I think that when we're going through it, or at least when I was going through it, I talked a lot about on my platform about how, you know, my family was incredible and how you guys just...
Well, that's enough. Yeah, Candice really needs to take a course on internet safety. For as much as she claims to be wanting to protect the privacy and the security of my family, bitch, shut the fuck up and get off the internet. Oh my god, I have found everything about this woman through her content. And when I tell you everything, I mean everything, down to somebody was able to Google map where she currently lives off of her content. It is crazy. We Google mapped her build. I don't know, that would make me uncomfortable, you know, for being such a, especially for, unless she's not actually worried for her safety, unless she thinks she's, you know, totally safe, well, then maybe. But for as much as she reiterates for the security of my family, everything she does, allegedly, all the lies she tells is for the security of her family, but she puts out her entire family. We found everything. We have found absolutely, well, almost everything. Google mapped her current rental. Google mapped her current house build. Google mapped her fucking cars. It's crazy. It's kind of scary. I'll be honest. Like, this made me think about, God damn. Let me backtrack to my own shit. And then, yeah, the public records, all of that. Like, let this be a good lesson for you, Candice, that you've been exploiting your family and putting them on the map for gain. And, you know, only we can determine what's worth it to us and what isn't. But those 5 years of building that house and monetizing is catching up to her. Unfortunately. Would you be okay with someone doing it to you? No. Which is why when they did it to me, I had a hard time too. When they found the local Facebook groups that in my area and plastered me all over and doxed me, that shit was scary. Yeah. So I had a little bit more respect for her. I didn't dox her today. I crossed out where the name towns. I just showed you an aerial view for location purposes. I didn't show you where she lives. I didn't show you the exact address. Not like they did to me. Nowhere near what they did. So yeah, it's an uncomfortable feeling. But why are people able to do that to us? Because we overshare. It's why I've never given you guys house tours since. You guys can find my rental. I told you even what it's called. You could zoom and Google map my rental if you want. My current homes, you guys haven't seen no house tours for 2 years because I'm trying to actively protect the privacy of my children. I'm not saying that I've been maybe I've slipped here and there, and I'm sure if someone wanted to find me the same way, they could probably find me. But I can at least say that I've taken steps to make it harder for them to, because of experiences with crazy bitches like these. So I'm not doing anything they didn't do to me. Okay, trust. But I just do think it's crazy how much information we've been able to dig up. I'm sure she's not feeling good about that. Candice showed us where she lived, right? She vlogs her family. She vlogs everything. Oh, I gotta go, guys. I gotta take this call. And mind you, she's invited fucking reporters to her house. She's invited multiple content creators. So if you're actually trying to protect the integrity and privacy of your home, are you gonna be inviting anybody just to show it off? Probably not. Okay, how many people has she taken to her house build that she just met on the internet? So she's opening the fucking door to this. She's making her house a tourist site. Okay, especially now that we know that y'all own some of it. Y'all built the fucking foundation. So, yeah. And no, I didn't get this information from any of her friends. Nobody that's been there. A follower emailed it to me. Through her own content, they took a screen. They watched a vlog of her hanging up fucking clothes outside, and off of that they found her current rental. And then I don't know how the fuck they found the build. Oh, but she told me she recognized the church from the quinceañera vlog, and the town's not very big, so she Google mapped the church, and then she started looking around, and what do you know, she found it. Okay, so it's when we're doing family vlogging. Like this is a great example of the dangers of it. And lucky for you, I'm really not that much of a crazy bitch. All I'm gonna do is show my besties, you know, and I'm making these few points here and there. But I've been saying, like, if I wanted to find her, I could find her. What would I need to find her for? Nothing. But, you know, maybe if we want to go do some journalism on the ground, if you have to give a disclosure to someone you're inviting to your home, maybe don't invite them, Candice. Yeah. If you have to tell people, hey, here's where I live, but don't give it to this person, maybe don't. Maybe don't. And then all the fuss she's made about content creators giving me her information, and I found it by myself through her content. You see what I'm saying? What is that proving? It's almost like she invited me in because she spent so much time, don't let her find this, don't let her find that, I don't want her to find this. So it kind of made us curious. Well, let's see how easy we can find it so we can stop bringing other people into it. Alondra, if you're watching, it would be even easier to zone in on where Carlos and Alondra live here in PB. Okay, now do you see the outrage when they were like, well, she's friends with Cisco and Cisco knows where we live. PB is so small. Okay, all I gotta do is go to some of Carlos's vlogs, Google map the fucking street. It's really that easy. He's told us the area. He shows his house number. He shows the front of his house. It's not that hard to find people out here. Okay, what necessity do we have to know where we live? None. I'm just proving a point that as much as you guys have drilled this, we're so scared for our safety because we don't want Annie to get information. You're sharing it. You're sharing your information with me publicly, and you're sharing it with thousands, millions of people on the internet. So it sounds so funny now for these people to be like, oh, we for the safety, we don't want her. You're literally showing people where you live. Anybody could Google map your house, Candice and Carlos. Anybody. So I don't need, no. So now let's leave other creators out of this that have been to your house. Now let's stop. Now you don't need to give people a disclosure because now I know exactly where these people are. We go up there. And what am I going to do with it? I'm just going to show you that she lives on fucking croplands. That's it. That's it. It's not that deep. It's really not that deep. But if I can find it, I promise you anybody else on the internet can find it. And that is what should be concerning, not Annie. All right, I gotta wrap up. I got some stuff to do. I'll be back in the late afternoon. Yes? So class, what have we learned? So in summary, onion peels. Does scholars work a real job? Probably not. No, probably not. Okay, let me cut this short because it's already a 2-hour replay and I like to keep these under 2 hours or shorter so it doesn't take besties forever to catch up. The live replay will be available publicly for YouTube. So if you were joining late, take the next couple of hours to catch up. We will circle back here in the late afternoon. As a summary, I gave you guys an update on the GRAMA request. I showed you some aerial footage of the land, of the big white mansion being built on native croplands. And what else? And then we did some replays of her sisters. And yeah. So I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you to all of you that have joined my memberships. And I will catch you guys on the flip side. Also keep an... Oh, can we call it the White House? I love that. Candice's house, the White House. that was clever. Because tell me it doesn't look like the White House, right? It's even got kind of the shape of the White House. It's not just family blogging in the small town. She records pretty much everybody. She comes into cross, including children that aren't hers. Yeah. Has there been any response from the White House? Yes. She filed an objection to the police records being released. So the police department requested an additional 5 days to be able to weigh out whether they will be able to release the records, release them partially, not in full, or not at all. So she is actively fighting for the police report to not be released to us. She's watching, she's working behind the scenes, and she's trying to suppress those records. And I can only imagine why. So, no, I think the White House is a perfect name for it. So yeah, the records should have been released by now, but because of her objection to the release of the records, the police department wants an additional 5 days. And it might take longer, right? If they need to determine, so in a GRAMA request, because they are presumed to be public records. But when somebody, an interested party, typically the victim, especially when it has to do with DV, objects, they have to be able to convince the police department why her privacy would outweigh public interest in the release of these records. And I want you guys to think about the Taylor Frankie Paul case right now. Okay? All those records also involved DV, it involved children, and they were released. Who knows if Taylor Frankie Paul objected? But I do find it very interesting that she objected to the release. It actually makes me suspect that, what are you hiding? If the police report is not bad, it's what you said it was, that you guys just got into a scuffle, why would she be working behind the scenes to make sure that those records are not released? I think that police report includes everything that we've been wondering. And a lot of her lies are going to come unhinged if and when that police record. So if the GRAMA request is denied due to her objection, I already have my appeal ready, and I will be appealing this. And it doesn't help her that she's a public figure and that they're both public figures, right? So the presumption of privacy goes out the window when you become a public figure, especially when you are monetizing at the root of this. They monetize at the root of the deportation, and the deportation is rooted and linked to this crime, which involves authorities and how they responded to it. So I have a very strong argument when it comes to why these records, why there's a public interest that outweighs her need for privacy in those records. Because she's a public figure and their monetization is linked to this. So it is procedural, right? If they receive an objection, they have to process it. They have to read through it, and then they have to go through the records and they have to decide what to release, what to redact. I didn't just ask for the police report. We asked for a lot of things. So the police department now has to take the time to not only review my request for the records, but go over her objection, weigh out what they're going to release. And any police report that involves domestic violence is already going to be redacted partially to conceal the identity of the victims and such. So we do have to wait a little bit longer. If anything, I hold the personal opinion that she bought herself some time. But I don't see this ending well. And then I don't think she realizes that that objection is now also property of the government, which can be subject to a GRAMA request in itself to see why she objected. Yes. So she's just adding to the records that we're going to be requesting in hindsight, right? Because that objection now, whatever written correspondence was sent in linked to my GRAMA request, is now government property that can also be requested through a GRAMA request. So me and her are pretty much litigating in a way behind the scenes, and the police department's in the middle, and they're going to have to weigh out who to release, what to release, and she just keeps adding to it. So I'm assuming she filed the objection on the basis of privacy. It's the only real claim she could have. It doesn't matter if this information is going to be used for content or not. None of that matters. The only thing in question here is, does the privacy outweigh the public interest? And I think we can all collectively agree that it doesn't, because she's a public figure. And the monetization is linked to the root of this. So I really do believe it will be released. And not only that, but this tells me that the records exist. At the beginning of this, I was hesitant because they're old. So the reply that we received from the police department confirms to me that the records exist. and they are now weighing out what to release, right? So in summary, she's at least helped us confirm that the police department does have the records. If they didn't exist, if there wasn't much left, if they've been archived, it would have just been sorry, we don't have, they're old, we don't have them. So they exist. They exist, and now the police department is weighing out if and what to release. And I do strongly believe, based on my research, even with the best legal representation, even if she has attorneys, I don't know who she has working or if it's her doing it, even then, I believe we have a very strong case because of the fact she's a public figure and he's a public figure, right? The victim in this case, imagine this, and I'm speculating on what her objection says, but let's say the victim objected to the release of these files, citing privacy, okay? But the victim is actually a public figure, monetizing at the root of this. So if I'm the police department and I'm weighing out privacy versus public interest on a public figure, yeah. That's why I'm not worried about it. In fact, I would welcome a denial so I can appeal it. I would love, we'll even make this another case study. We'll make this another case study, and I'll take you guys along for the ride of the procedural process to obtain records in a case like this. I haven't shown you their receipts to all of this yet. I will eventually, once the police department makes their decision, and I'll show you guys, this is what they said, this is what she said, all that. So it's only giving us more anticipation. I'm sorry that it's taking this long, but I do think it's important for you guys to know that she is working behind the scenes to have these records suppressed, and there has to be a reason behind that. So at first I wasn't going to tell you guys till I got them back, but I'm not going to get them back. I won't get another response probably till another week or so, right? So because I know there's a lot of you waiting on that, I wanted to loop you in and also let her know that I don't know if she was aware that they were going to tell me that there was an objection filed, right? And if I was her, that would frustrate me as well. I wouldn't want people to know that I'm objecting, but it's part of the, there's a procedural step to this. If I was her, I wouldn't have done this because it's a lot to gamble. Because if and when they're released, they're also going to release why I objected, and it's going to piece everything together. So in my personal opinion, she's just making it worse. She's just making it worse by objecting, and then probably didn't know that the police department would tell me that she objected, and then probably didn't know that that objection is also now public property, or should be public records through another GRAMA request. So you see all these things? Maybe don't tell us about the appeal. There's no appeal. There's no appeal because it hasn't been denied or approved. And I wasn't going to mention it, but I do want to mention it so that you guys kind of take this as a learning opportunity too. I was completely honest in my request for these records, who I am and what we want them for. And so I have nothing to hide in this process. And if it gets denied, that will be my request. I think that should plant the seed as a public that y'all need to get these records. There has to be, I don't think this is going to end well for her because this is just one GRAMA request. She would have to file objections to every single one. And if mine gets denied, I can just tell you that there's going to be a lot of people that want these records even more. The same way people are reporting her for PPP file, I wouldn't be surprised that people on their own start requesting for the records. So let's just wait. Let's just wait and see where this record, let's not inundate the police department. The more requests they get, the more work. So let me take this request all the way to the top. If we need to appeal it, we'll appeal it. But I thought this was a good opportunity to kind of share the process with you guys and how I didn't know that somebody could object to them. Okay, I never shared my request number, but I can only assume that she called the police department herself or had somebody, maybe a legal team, whatever, and called and said, we have information that these records have been requested. We'd like to object based on these grounds, right? And so now the police department needs additional time to process their request so that they can determine whether her privacy request outweighs the need for the public interest, right? So that's all, guys. That's it. That's all. No tea, no shade. Thank you for joining me. I will catch you guys on the flip side. Have fun catching up.